And we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it. There are teachers who are really amazing at building a classroom community because it's a controlled environment, right? Like they are stuck. They have to listen to you. They have to do what you say. And then you just like, you build your brand of fun. But yeah, in the hallways is very different.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
What up, peeps? This is Alyssa, and I'm here with my co-host and faux little bro, Andre.
And welcome to another episode of Teachers Like Us.
With no video again.
I know, I'm smiling in the video like anyone can see me. They can't see me.
Listen, okay, first, I think we need to apologize for the poor quality of last week's pod.
Yeah.
Listen, we tried. Honestly, that podcast almost went to trash. And Andre saved it somehow. But that pod was never supposed to see the light of day because everything went wrong. Video didn't record. Audio was garbage. Like, it was just a bad situation for us. So
yeah, horrible.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know how to explain it. It's rough. Like, you think that after 6 seasons we'd at least have the audio down. Like, I know we're trying to do the video thing, but the audio should be like down packed, and it's not.
It is really not. We are having the most difficulty right now, and the thing is, we spent dollars on equipment.
Yeah.
It should work.
Yeah, there's not no play organization over here. Like, we're actually trying to sound and trying to look professional. You just can't see the looks just yet, but no. We're trying to get things figured out. Hopefully we will soon, and we can actually start putting this on
YouTube. Yeah, it's a hard knock life out here. So, mental health check, week 2 of your new position.
It's like a week and a day, technically. Yeah. I think I still like it, if that's a good thing.
Do you like it more or the same or less? I don't think you like it less. But...
No, I think I like it the same. I like it the same. I think what will make me start to like it more is once I'm getting my own situation. Right now we're still figuring out things amongst the group. More people are being hired into the position, all of that. So once that all of that gets situated, and they can say like, okay, this is your section of the Peel District School Board, Andre. I can say, okay, cool, and then start working with the people in those sections. But I think I still like it. I'm still excited for what it could be.
Yeah, fair.
What I realized today though was that there's still people out. It's something that I didn't realize, and maybe this is like a resource teacher thing, not just like my job, but just the resource teacher role in general, is that there's a lot of questions when a random teacher from the board office comes into your building, right? A lot of people asking, and this is like teachers, admin, students, like, who are you? Why are you here? What are you supposed to be doing now that you're here? When are you leaving?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And you know what? I feel like a lot of people, I don't know. It's interesting that people are still really like hesitant, but I think it's because when you have someone from the board come in, people automatically assume they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Versus, us actually being there to help and like, not like, it has nothing to do with people getting in trouble. It has everything to do with like, hey, like, you're lucky you have extra hands on deck to like build capacity and do some really neat things. And sometimes it's not even about like something that has happened wrong at your school, but something that maybe a resource teacher is going to like implement or help you implement, in your space. Some resource teachers come in and do like whole tech implementation, and they'll show you how to like use different devices and what software and things you could be using in your room. So yeah, I think it's interesting that there's still so much hesitation to have us in their spaces.
Yeah, another thing that I noticed too, from speaking to other resource teachers, like, at when I first got this job, and I talked about when I was applying for it, and I said like, hey, until you got your job, Alyssa, I was like, this job is for people that are seasoned, you know, work 20 years and then they call you up to the big leagues type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone I have talked to is fulfilling that, but me. Everyone I speak to has been working for the board 15, 20 years, and then they're like, hey, you know, time to see if my skills can be used on a broader scale. Where I thought I was so nice that after like after not even 10 years, I was like, yeah, you know, Bundes school. Let me show the world how great I am. Where literally everybody else is like, no, they did their time essentially, because again, everyone's in that same time frame. So they kind of did their time, and then they're like, okay, let me see if I can make this work on a broader scale. So that's another something else was just eye-opening to me, but again, another hurdle to get over is just trying to understand what my role is, who am I representing, because that's one thing to be very weird, that when you put on this badge and lanyard thing, like it means something completely different than if you were just walking into the building without it on.
Oh, interesting. You're catching on now, because this is what I was saying before.
Yeah,
it's very different walking into a school when you have this badge on, because all of a sudden people are like, the board's here. I'm like, calm down. My name's Alyssa.
I feel like I'm what do you call it, like a police officer or a detective that ops. Wears the badge all the time, right? So you walk in, everyone's like, oh, what did we do? Okay, let's make sure we have this. You have your papers together? Okay, we're gonna go into the meeting, and everybody say exactly what you're supposed to say, and then he'll leave and he'll be happy. Like, that's how it feels. Where
it's true.
Where I don't want to create that like awkwardness for anyone. I want to be able to like, hey, I'm here to help. How can I help?
Yeah, I agree. And so one of the things that I did as instructional coordinator this year is that I asked our resource teachers to actually go out and do like sunshine visits before they even got into the schools they were supposed to be working in. And I did that because often, you walk into a school and everyone's like, please leave. Why are you here?
Yeah.
And so I figured if they went in and did these sunshine visits and just said like, hey, I'm a real person, I'm actually here to help. No one's in trouble because I'm honestly just assigned to this superintendency and I'm here to help. I felt like people would be more willing to, accept them into their spaces. And so far, I will say so good, because at our department meeting, our team meeting last week, people were already saying, I could see shoulders relax when I like went in and just said, hey, like, we got this really cool toolkit that our writing team put together over the summer. If you want to look at that, like, it was just really like, here, we can help, but we're not here to judge you or like, take you away in handcuffs. Like, it's not, what? Like, it's not like that. So that was like one of the, I'm going to put that on my highlights or like something cool that I initiated when I have to eventually do my principal package one day. I'll be like, see, I have good ideas.
All right, enough of me now. Mental health check for you. How is your week going?
You know what? Today filled my cup. Like my cup runneth over. Listen, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this.
Nice little Christian podcast that we have going on now.
Like, right? Everyone's gonna be like, Alyssa, you too? No, just Andre. Just Andre.
It's okay.
It's okay. They're gonna start yelling, shame, shame. So in any case, today was awesome. So if you saw my Instagram, I actually was at my alma mater today. So I went to the place that I graduated from high school. And again, like two of my daughters really is what I call them. Like when I saw them today, I was like, my babies. They go there. And so I made sure that I found them and that we got to like touch base today, and I got to see how they were doing. One is in grade 12, one's in grade 9. And so it's very interesting to see the different perspectives. Of where they are in their lives and like what's happening next. Like one is applying to university. One is still trying to run away from the school. And I said, no, you're not. Don't make me call your mom. And so I think it's just nice to see the kiddies like growing up. And like, in all fairness, the grade 9, again, the one that I just left, literally ran into my arms, jumped into my arms, like her feet were off the floor. I was like, ma'am,
Sounds like
stand
something
up.
she would do. Yeah.
And sobbing, crying, I'm so happy to see you. Yeah, just crying. And so, you know, it was good. Like, it's so fulfilling to see good things happen, because that's not always the case, right?
Yeah.
Like, not every story is a success story, and not every like ending is a happy ending. And so, like, to see these kids continue to grow, continue to thrive, and especially in a place that I loved so much, is really cool. And then I saw a picture of myself and I was like, ooh, look at her. Look at her at 16, 17. She cute. She cute. I was like, okay, body. Okay. So yeah, that was really neat too. And so yeah, today I feel affirmed in my position and like what I bring to the table as a teacher. And I think that's the piece. I think often as a teacher, you doubt everything you do, right? Like, you second guess everything you say, any like thing that you do, or like any interaction you have with a student, because you're like, did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing?
Yeah.
And then seeing students kind of removed from you and now in a new environment, and them looking back at you as like you were amazing. Like, thank you for pouring into me. That's really validating, because then you're like, okay, so I did do okay. Like, the kids are all right.
That's
so yeah.
I was gonna say that's the biggest thing that I loved once I got into the guidance role, and I had all of those opportunities to step into the high schools that we fed into, because you saw students that, like, especially while they were in the building, you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on with you, sir? Why won't you listen to any of the words that come out of my mouth? Why?
It's true.
And then, you know, you give them that time, like you said, in a new environment, in a new spot, and you get to see, you come back and you talk to them and you see them, and you're like, oh, all of it starts to like click. All of it starts to click. I'll even add, for today, on one of my visits today, I got to see a past student of ours, or I should say 2 past students of ours that used to walk the halls like they own the place.
Listen, one of them even ran out the building.
Yeah. Yeah. And just act like you would think their last name was the name of our school, the way that they acted while they were in the building. But they're in grade 12 and graduating this year as well, and just talking to them about like whatever their future plans are, their next steps are. I was listening to them and I was like, oh, you for real? No, okay, I see it. I think you can do it too. 4 years ago, I don't know about all of that. That sounds like a tall order for you to fill, but now, no, for sure. Especially like just seeing like the leadership qualities. Again, these kids walk like they own the school. And a lot of the times I feel like a lot of teachers interact with that type of student, where if I could just like mold it into something positive, you'd be such a great like world leader. And now, again, not saying that I had anything to do with it, but you're seeing it now, where
I did. I taught them both.
where either through like guidance help, contact help, teacher relationship, and then them knowing that, okay, I trusted teachers at my middle school, I can trust teachers at my high school, because that's one thing that we talked about. So them saying like, hey, I'm gonna find people that I can trust. Even one student was at a different school and said, this is not the place for me, let me try coming over here, and came to this school and had a complete shift just based on his teacher interactions. And again, teachers being able to bring out those leadership skills in children. So like, I feel like not only is an encouragement to like us to say like, okay, yay, we're the difference that we said we would make in Teachers College, we're actually doing it, because you can see it. But it's also to an encouragement to people that are like, you know, just starting out teaching in Teachers College, to say like, hey, when you're in your interview, like, oh my God, I just love children and that's why I want to be a teacher. It's good. Your love is gonna get put to the test, but you're also going to see you're also going to see the payoffs of you putting in the work to love those children.
Yeah. I think that's such an interesting comment to make, because when I think about, a lot of people who get into teaching and this idea of like, well, the kids are awesome and I'm always going to love the kids. And it's like so fun. I love working with kids. I worked at summer camp. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to love this. But it is a very different environment when you are holding them to standards, when you are having high expectations and expecting them to get work done. You become a very different person. And I know that the person we all thought we were going to be in teachers college is not necessarily the person that we become as educators. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And sometimes it's just different. I definitely thought I would be way more fun. Not that I'm not fun, but I thought I would be like way more chill and like, all right, whatever you want. I'm definitely not that teacher. I've been described as firm but fair. I've been described as feisty.
All true. But go on.
I've been described as loud. Like, it's just interesting to see all of the ways that, again, your education and how you think you're going to end up in the role changes, because kids change, personalities change, times change, right? Like, we keep talking about this idea that like post-COVID, we're in this like very different teaching environment now. Like, the kiddies have started to rise up and band together and like exert their collective power to kind of like, I don't want to say run things, because then it makes it seem like we run things when really it should be like a collective, effort. But they're rising up in interesting ways, I will say. So do you want to jump into today's topic of students rising up? And I'll rise up.
Okay. Little vibrato there. Okay.
It's the mic. It's all the mic.
Not only are children rising up, these guys are rising chairs and
not funny.
Rising desk and letting those things fly. Like, it's funny that we're talking about like, what type of teacher we thought we would be in teachers college verse. Now, I know for me, my biggest issue was always, and again, we'll get into the topic in a second, but my biggest issue was always, how am I going to remain myself? Because while I was in teachers college, every class was kind of telling me what kind of teacher I should be. Like I had teachers telling me like, hey, don't crack any jokes, don't smile, don't laugh the first 3 months of school. And I said, for me, who laughs all the time, that if you say something funny, you'll get a little chuckle out of me. No. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Or to set firm expectations at the beginning and don't let up and make sure your phone calls home 24/7. And for me, I was like, those things are just not who I am. So how am I going to step into this profession and still be myself? And I've found a way to do that, because I still, again, I love it, and I'm still me and not only am I still me, I can definitely notice, and I talk to Alyssa about this all the time, I talk to my wife about it all the time too, of the times where I feel like I'm not being myself, or I feel like somebody's forcing me to do something that's just not in my nature to do. And I think the biggest part of myself is that I've always wanted to be someone who builds relationships. And like in today's topic, we're talking about like violence against teachers, essentially, or violence in schools that happen. And what always gets spoken about is the fact that, hey, maybe these acts wouldn't be happening if people were building relationships in their classrooms and things like that, and getting to know students and building authentic connections, all of that, like lovely buzzwords that like are cool, but they're buzzwords at the end of the day.
Listen, our whole podcast is built on building relationships. So what are you saying right now? What are you telling the people?
What do we do when it seems like it's not working? Because again, if I'm a teacher, so one of the reports that I found is from a teacher in Michigan who is recently going back into work after getting smacked in the head from a chair being thrown at them by a student during a like altercation. So like this back and forth conversation that happened that just escalated into this chair being thrown. And it's now like, okay, if I'm doing all that I can do, that's not even like what I'm supposed to do. If I'm doing all that I can do to interact, to de-escalate, to let the kids know who I am, and it doesn't work, like what next?
Okay, so a couple things I'm going to clarify just based on what I read quickly, is that the teacher wasn't actually in the altercation. Two students were in the altercation, and then the chair was thrown. The teacher got hit, but knocked unconscious. So like, I guess even in that scenario where you're not the intended target, but like, you know, there are things happening that people are like, well, if you had built community,
exactly,
then the kids wouldn't have fought, and then you wouldn't have got hit in the head. And you're like, are you for real? I guess the question is like, what? Oh, I don't even know what the good question is. Is it like, what role does community and relationships have in these incidences? Can't speak.
It's okay. We know the time over here. So
I hate these late podcasts. And like, is there a way to mitigate that with relationships, or are we facing something very different in our schools? Because this also goes back to something that we talked on the pod last year when, you know, teachers were saying like, hey, it's violent out here. Like, it's not just fun and games anymore. There are like real serious things happening in our schools. So what does that mean for educators? Because last time we said, hey, maybe you're not built for middle school. Listen, this is the podcast. Yeah, this one podcast is like, this one podcast episode is literally the podcast that keeps on giving, because I mention it every week now. But like, really, we were like, maybe you're not meant to be a middle school teacher. Maybe you haven't built community in your rooms. Maybe, right? So what are we actually saying? Do we stick by that? Or do you stick by that? Like, and whomever says what?
And this is my thing. It's something that I've just been like toying with, especially now I'm in with the role that I'm in now, where I'm trying to support the building of authentic relationships. Right. So now it's like, okay, is that enough? For me personally, it's always been enough. The mere fact that I can walk into a classroom and not be a teacher in that classroom and get the respect of the however many kids that are there is a testament to the relationships that I've built, not only with those students, but, you know, because I've been at the school for X amount of years. So I've built relationships with their older siblings, younger siblings, all of that stuff. Or even as a coach and going to a different school, the kids at that random school that I may have only been at for the day for that tournament end up getting some sort of sense of who I am. And that causes them to, you know, interact with me different than they might interact with the teachers that are in their building. So does it work? Yes. But I feel like we're getting into this place where, because we say it so often, it makes it seem like there's a cookie cutter way to build a relationship.
I think you've actually like unlocked something. And so I think part of this, right, is this idea that, especially when us as resource teachers go in, we're like, well, we can do it.
Yeah.
Why can't you?
Exactly.
And so we're trying to impart the way that we build relationships onto somebody who doesn't actually function the way that we do. Right. And I think it's interesting that people would say, like, I think a lot of teachers would say like, no, I'm great at building relationships. Are you actually good at building relationships, or are you maybe just passive? And so the kids like you because you don't really ask anything of them. Or like, and that's not the case for everybody, but like, are you, you know, can you build relationships with the students who are compliant and listening anyway? Right. Like, are you like, no, like, I'm good at that because they're already listening. So like, we're besties.
Even another layer I would add to it too is, can you only build relationships inside your quote unquote space? So the space that you've built. because there's a lot of teachers that for the 30 kids that they're seeing or whatever the case may be, great,
Mm-hmm.
but those same skills that work inside the space that they've co-created with those students might not work for them to step into a random classroom or to step out even into the hallway and say something like, hey students, it's time to transition, can you guys get to class? And people actually go, okay miss, okay sir.
Yeah, I honestly, and we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it. There are teachers who are really amazing at building a classroom community because it's a controlled environment, right? Like they are stuck. They have to listen to you. They have to do what you say, and then you just like, you build your brand of fun. But yeah, in the hallways is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think an interesting like question, if we go back to like this whole chair throwing incident, right? Where again, this teacher is not really in the mix. The two students are fighting. Teacher's just trying to break it up, and the chair gets flung, right? If you are in that situation and that is happening in your classroom, what are your steps before you even get hit? So let's say you haven't gotten hit yet. Two kids are fighting. Desk maybe isn't thrown yet, but like kids are getting hot and you can feel it. What happens?
I think for me, first things first, I'm clearing the room to one side. Everybody needs to be on one side for their own safety. Or if I, excuse me, if I'm able to do my best to control the situation, it might be saying like, hey, you two, come in the hallway with me 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And let's separate ourselves from the classroom and from the eyes. Because I feel like that happens a lot in altercations with students. Once there's an audience, people are expecting you to do something. So this can't just be a verbal back and forth anymore. I don't know, you dissed my mom, like classic thing. I don't know if that happens too much anymore because these kids be rowdy with the things that they say now. But like, you dissed my mom and everyone's like, oh, I wouldn't let him do that to me. Right? So it brings on this extra layer of now I have to do something to assert my dominance, where if I pull you out of that situation because you might not even have the emotional capacity to even handle that, if I'm able to pull you out and pull that other student out and get you both in the hallway, that might be something that quickly de-escalates that situation. But I think for me, first is trying to isolate them. Either me and them two were out in the hallway, or I'm trying to get everyone in the class, hey, come this way, so that nobody is a potential to be hurt or injured. And then it's me and those two students on the other side of the classroom trying to figure out things so that we can calm things down.
Yeah. And I feel like in a high school classroom, right? Like, and that's what this was. In a high school classroom, I'd be like, yo, dip, go to the calf. Like,
yeah,
the kids who are in the class, you don't actually have to, it's not like a middle school or an elementary school where you have to be like, can somebody watch this group of students? I can't just have them like on the loose. Like, if it's high school, yo, get out the class.
Yeah.
Go to the calf, go sit in the hall. I don't care. You know what I found really interesting? Sorry, today. This is like an offshoot, and I don't know, like my ADHD is kicking in real strong. But today I noticed in a high school, empty halls. I was like, what? Is this new? High school teachers at me? Let me know. Like, what's happening in the schools? The kids are in class.
I think it's something that I noticed last year too. And my explanation to the eights when we went on the visit and they started to notice that, oh, people aren't really in the hallways like how they are at our school. And I said, yeah, because these guys are taking their marks too seriously to an extent. Right? So this is not just you need to be in class, you need to be in school. It's this is something important to me. I told myself I want to be X, whatever X is. And I took these courses and I talked to my guidance counselor in grade 8 and said, like, these are the courses I should take to stay on the trajectory or the pathway that I want to be on. So now that I'm in them, I'm actually liking what I'm learning. And I'm also going to actually take it seriously because I see the importance in it. Whereas in a middle school, in a elementary school, you find sometimes that kids, they don't see the importance, so they check out, and checking out is being in the hallway because the importance is social connection and friendships. Where it's, as they get older, it starts to divide where they can compartmentalize and say, hey, yeah, my friends are important, but you see this math test, can't fail that because I can't be sitting here at 18 years old with a whole bunch of 13 years olds in grade 9 math.
It's true. It's funny though, because when we arrived at the school today, there was a girl sitting outside and I could hear she was on the phone with a friend, but they were literally talking about like their math test, which I thought was hilarious. Like, are you ready? Have you studied this thing? Like, I've studied this thing. And I was like, look at y'all, like out here just having lunch, or like you're on your spare or whatever it is. So really interesting, like how the dynamic changes over time. I feel like we're all over the place this pod, and it's entirely my fault.
It's fine.
But
the title of the pod, when you have ADD.
So sorry. But yeah, I think it's just interesting because I saw so much today, right? Like just being in a high school for some time and walking around. And I think, okay, here are my thoughts after like being around a lot of high school teachers lately. And this is not from the school visit. This is from like everywhere. So high school teachers, I understand that, like, again, you have a different union for us. Like you teach different things. Like you teach kind of you teach a course.
Yeah.
You're part of a department. But I feel like sometimes, and high school teachers are going to hate me right now, sometimes I feel like y'all are a bit bougie about what you do. I'm sorry. I'm starting wars out here. Like, let's just start fights. Nah, because high school teachers are like, you don't understand us all the time. I always hear that, right? Like, and so I want to know, high school teachers, what is it about high school that not is so different? Because I understand what's different, but like, why do you feel so misunderstood? Like,
that's a
I don't know. I feel
question.
Like, yeah, like high school teachers are always out here like, this is not middle school. Like, I don't know about you elementary folk. I'm like, it's not that serious. Like,
well, you know what it is too? Like, I know how you said like high school teacher, which is funny. I know a lot of high school teachers, so I'm not taking the same shots at you that she is. So when you're writing those messages, direct them, say at Alyssa G. Tyler. Thank you.
Y'all are bougie.
But I feel it's the same way that middle school teachers look at K to 8 teachers and K to 5 teachers like, ew, how are you doing it down there? That's crazy. I could never. That's kind of how they might feel. Like whatever song and dance you're doing for these kids down there, when they get up here, they're still idiots. Like, what are you guys actually doing down there? You guys don't understand our turmoil.
I get that. But I feel like as middle school teachers, I understand that there is a difference between a K to 5, a K to 8, a distinct middle school 6 to 8, and then a high school. I understand that there are differences. But high school teachers like to lump K to 8 all in one. So even if you're in a middle school, they're like, like, oh my gosh, I'm really like about to just like throw flames today. So
don't
like
worry,
in all
we're
fairness,
deep in the episode, so they have to come. They have to have been here to know, so it's okay.
Okay, so this is me like giving out trade secrets now. This is the stuff I'm not supposed to say, but let's be honest. Okay, so we plan events, right, for the board, for board level, right? We have guest speakers that come in, all of these things, and so whenever people are finding guest speakers and things like this, they're like, oh, they could only be from 9 to 12. I'm like, so what's the difference between my 7s and 8s who are intermediate students? So technically it's 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a grouping of students, truthfully. So like, but they're always like, oh no, like this would not be good for those elementary folk. And I'm like, what? Huh? Like, why aren't we thinking, like, I feel like we get too siloed everywhere. Like everything is so like this parameter exists, so this is where I'm comfortable like bouncing in between. Whereas I'm like, yeah, again, like I think a grade 8 and a grade 9, like there's really no difference between a grade 8 and a grade 9. 4 months. There's a 4-month difference. Because funny enough, when I went to the school today and I saw, our grade 9 student, and I was like, you haven't changed in a year. And she said, Miss Gray, it's been 4 months. I said, fair. But like, if you think about it that way, from June to September, not much is happening. So, let's just be mindful of each other.
Well, I think also like high school teachers in general, and if we go back to our incident for today with the violent acts, again, it's something that happened in a high school.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they might feel that because we are dealing with soon to be adults in not only like mindset, but body, stature, all of that, um it could bring about some fear in some teachers, like, hey, I'm I'm not built to be around these students, if they do decide to act violently in whatever in whatever way. And also just this idea that as a high school teacher, you are preparing them for a big next step. Like as a
Yeah.
middle school teacher, the next step is high school, but they have like 2 years to kind of like fumble around and figure out things before grade 11 and 12 start. Where if I'm teaching, I don't know, grade 11 physics, you need to get this stuff, or the plans that you had to apply to X school, they're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna work with the mark that you would get from fumbling around the physics department. And I don't know if there's enough like understanding for that. I don't know. That's my thought process. See, I'm
You
trying to
know
help
what?
you guys out.
I know
That's
you're
my
always
thought.
out here. I know you do the same thing with the supply teachers too.
That's what.
Like,
Hey, supply teachers. I still stand with you. I know I haven't supplied for anybody in a long time. I'm still not on these guys' side. These guys in their contracts from they left teachers college. Like I don't know who they are or who they think they are. I'm not with them.
I had an LTO first before I got permanent,
Ooh,
so
1 month LTO or whatever.
actually it was more like 3,
Oh, I think my
4.
first
It
LTO
was
was
4
3
months.
months.
No, my LTO was 4 months. So yeah, like I don't know. I don't. This podcast is so wild
No, it's
today.
fine. It's fine.
All the thoughts that I have, I'm like, take all of my thoughts. It's a dump. It's a brain dump today.
Yeah. I think at the high school level, especially when it comes to, if we bringing it back to this building community and is it actually effective type thing, I think it is so vital in high school, but I feel that high school teachers feel they don't have the time to this the same time that you would have in a middle school or elementary classroom, where you can kind of shut things down for the first week or two of school or 3 weeks of school and really build community and foster this idea of what the classroom is going to be and make classroom agreements and all that stuff. Because in high school, kids are bouncing from class to class. They can't do that with every class, with every teacher, and every class and every teacher is going to be different, because all the kids, they're not really grouped together the same. They're all different. So how do I do that how do I build these strong connections with kids that I'm only seeing, I don't know, once or twice in a cycle or something like that, or once a day for an hour? That it becomes, I think to them, it becomes more difficult.
I'm sure it does, but I also don't think it requires the same amount of like energy like than it does to corral a bunch of little people to be like, hey, comes in on the carpet. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the older they get, maybe the more, not, they're definitely not more willing. They're probably like, just like, whatever, please don't talk to me. But
Yeah.
like, there's a little more like, the prefrontal cortex is still developing, but like it starts to like mature, let's say. So then they kind of understand that there is a purpose to some things. And so I think you can explain to them better, is what I'm really getting at. You can reason with them and be like, look, I get it. You have all these things. We'll get to them, but let's take a minute. Let's take 5-10 minutes. Let's have a conversation. Like, I think when people think about 1, building community, 2, building relationships, they automatically think that it's like throwaway time. Like, I've wasted this time trying to do this, versus like a lot of the relationships that I built and a lot of the like getting to know my students happened through conversations about the things that were happening in class, in the world. And we would just like sit, like as soon as the kids would come into the class, I would literally be sitting on a desk and I'd be like, yo, sit, let's chat. We would talk and I would learn things about them, because in that relating to content, they were telling me bits about themselves, because students will generally connect to what they know. It's all they can do. Like they can only connect to like what their frame of reference on any particular issue is. And so I do think it requires a certain type of listening, a certain type of conversation. And it is a skill, I will say. And so I think if there's one thing that we can develop in others, it is how to better listen, because I think a lot of the times, like, we're hearing students speak, but we're not listening to what they're saying. And then we're not asking the right questions back, right? There's no discourse in it. We're like, here's the information. A student will like maybe respond with their anecdote, and we're like, or their anecdote, and we'll be like, great. Next person. Does anyone else have anything to add? Versus like trying to maybe flush it out a little bit, or like responding in like a sincere way. So yeah, those are just my 10 cents.
One thing I would say is, like, again, in your classes, you were teaching predominantly what language? History, geography, French, right? So you have someone might say, like a high school teacher might say, like, okay, well, you have the time to, talk about media content going on in the news, or going on just the timeline, and get an idea and a sense of what the kids are finding as important, blah blah blah. You have that time built into your actual curriculum expectations, we'll say. Whereas if I teach another subject, it might not be as easy to ease somebody into a community conversation or a classroom discussion where we're now learning off of each other.
So like you couldn't do it like, did you know? Fact of the day.
You could, but again, are you going to, again, the kids are older now, or if I'm doing that every day, are they going to be like, nah, Mr. Masterson is nonsense again? I'm going to just be on my
probably.
phone. I'll be on my phone for the 5 minutes that he's trying to build connections with us, and then we'll actually get to the work that we're supposed to do.
I mean, I don't know. I guess you'd have to roll the dice and find out. But if you never try, because you're just like, that's never going to work with them. I don't know. I think we need to open ourselves to new ways of doing, new ways of teaching, right? Like, yeah, I really think, like, even in looking at the document that we produced for the system this summer, right? That's gone out. But immediately, before people even really like dug into it, again, with the Boujee high school teachers, we're like, I can't do, okay. Like, literally, I just want to be like, okay, cool. So then, do you then? Like, I don't, I was like, first of all, this was designed by one of your peers. This was designed by a high school teacher. Yeah. But you're looking at it because it came from, like, me as an elementary teacher, and you're like, you have no clue what we're about. Well, this is what your peer is saying. So perhaps it's time to open our minds. I'm telling you, I'm about to get all the hate mail from all the high school teachers.
Yeah. And I think, like,
listen, I love you all, right? Like, actually love you all. But
I also think, like, this is what resource teachers are supposed to be for, no matter what department that they're in, is they're coming to show you, whether you agree with it or not, what I did works. And I can show you what I did to make it work for you, or help, not show you, sorry. Let me not talk down to nobody. I can help you support you in getting the result that we are all looking for, which is that authentic relationship at the end of the day. So if that is something that you actually want to do, reach out to your board, say, I need some support, I need some help from one of the departments, and hopefully someone can come alongside and help you, rather than you, like, kind of like you said, Alyssa, rather than you just thinking like, oh, that's not going to work, I'm not going to do it, let me just keep teaching my lessons. Everybody's been getting it. The kids who love me, the kids who don't like me, who needs them anyways, they'll be out of my class in, I don't know, how long is it, 15 weeks or something like that,
a semester.
Yeah, so they'll be out of my class in no time. So, let them get what they can get from it, and everybody else will love me and think that I'm great. Because when I look back at my high school teachers, the teachers that, like, I really built connections with never taught me a class. And if I look back at the ones that were actually teaching me, it is a small number. I don't even think it's 5. Don't even think it's a handful of teachers that actually like took the time to get to know me, build connections with me, help me grow, mentor me, all of that stuff.
Wrap it up, friend.
Yeah.
Today I'm not even giving you the signal. I'm telling you, we've been talking too long. I ain't got no more to say today.
Yeah, because you're afraid of all these shots that you're about to get coming your way. Anyways.
No, like I said what I said. I said what I said. I meant it, but don't email me because I don't even want to read it. Too busy. Like, scream inside your heart. Remember what I said last time? Do the same.
All right, Boujee teachers, we are teachers like us, and you can find us wherever you decide to put your subscription dollars. If you're going to stay up to date for when we are dropping new episodes, you can follow us on Instagram at teachers like us. If you're looking to send happy messages, you can send them to at IamAndre.m, and I will reply with big smiley faces. All hate mail can be sent to
I am Andre, whatever. I am Andre.m. Listen, if you send me hate mail, be prepared. Be prepared. No, seriously, at the end of the day, friends, I love my high school teacher friends. Y'all are awesome. You actually do great work. I'm just playing with y'all, but y'all are actually bougie. But you can find me on Instagram at Alyssa G. Titer.
And we will see you next week.
Peace.